Hello, wildlifers. A very warm welcome to you all. I hope you're all doing fine. We members of Rotary Fellowship of Wildlifers Conservation share a common interest, that is wildlife and its conservation, willing to work with the 119-year-old organization Rotary towards building a future in which people and nature thrive. So, to share a few notes about our fellowship group, we are a group of around 700 plus individuals who have globally united around a common interest with the primary purpose to network and further friendship. Currently, we have two chapters, that is one in India and the other one is in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have one more chapter in Argentina that is coming up shortly. Although our fellowship activities are conducted independently of Rotary International, they are in harmony with the Rotary policies. Our purpose is to create awareness about importance of wildlife, to promote lasting friendships outside one's own club, district, and country, and to promote locally, regionally, and globally that conservation of living resources are important to humans and future generations to enjoy the natural world and the incredible species that live within it. So today we have members from different Rotary clubs and also friends of Rotary from different parts of the world are attending this meeting. A very hearty and warm welcome to you all. And on behalf of all the wildlifers, I also extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished speakers, Mr. Sunil Kumar, who will be introduced by Arun. Over to you, Arun. Yeah, please introduce our speaker.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. It is my pleasure to introduce Sunil Kumar, our speaker today. Sunil is working as a senior science and innovation advisor at the British High Commission, Bengaluru, for the last 17 years. Sunil has written a book on Indian ants and has published papers and articles on ants. He conducts free ant walks for students and public at large, highlighting the importance of these little creatures and the need to conserve them. So without taking much of your time, I hand over the space to Sunil Kumar. Over to you, Sunil.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Mr. Sanjay, for inviting me. First of all, could I request Sanjay if you could share the slides? So
yeah, sure.
And then, yeah, but there's plenty of familiar people in the audience, which is good. So namaskara to all those, including Sugandhi, who's on the call. So today's subject is about ants, those little things that we see all around us, but mostly, even though we notice it, sometimes I think we take them very lightly. So I'll talk to you about a few things about ants. This subject is never ending. I can go on for hours, but I'll try to restrict it for the next 20-25 minutes and then take questions from you. Along with that, I think what I want to also highlight is that despite these being very small, I think their role in nature is quite immense, and that's what I wish to highlight throughout the next 20-25 minutes. So join the trail. So firstly, I mean, most of you, I think almost all of you would have seen ants. All of you mostly bitten by ants or stung by ants. So what I would if you next slide, please. Yeah. Next. Okay. So even though I mean ants are common, they're found everywhere. If you ask me, I'm just trying to keep it light. highlight a few things so that you know. I mean, next time when you see an ant, you should be that it's bent. If you've seen a cockroach antennae or an antenna, you will see it will be straight with
Mr.
no kind
Sunil,
of bulb like.
Mr. Sunil, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think there's some disturbance in your connection. Can I request you to turn off your video so that the connectivity is better? Because I think I lost you in between. Yeah.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you, Sunil.
yeah.
Oh, sure. So why I put this slide is that you should be confident next time when you look at an ant that it is really an ant. Okay. So look at the antennae. So it's bent like an elbow. Okay. If you look at a cockroach or a butterfly, you'll see it will be straight. Butterflies will have a bulb-like thing at the end, whereas ants, legs, which is very important so that you don't structures. Okay. Some of them will have some ants will have one, some ants will be two node-like thing. So that is the connecting link between the thorax, the middle part of the ant, and the end of the ant, the abdomen of the ant. So what it does is it gives a lot of flexibility for the abdomen. So I think when you look at an ant, if you see all these three features, three pairs of legs, the bent antennae, and the middle connecting part, I think then you can be 100% sure that what you're seeing is an ant. So because most of the time when you see it in the wild or even sometimes in your houses, you will see that it will be sometimes there are bugs or other spiders which are living amidst ants, and you might get confused that it's an ant. Okay, so this is just the slightly technical bit of it. Otherwise, I will keep everything very, very, very simple. Okay, so where are the ants found? I mean, ants are found. I mean, if you go to the next slide, they're found everywhere on land. I mean, any part of the world except most the wherever there's permanent ice or permanent water, you will see ants everywhere. Any habitat, they're very, very successful. Go to any desert, urban systems, within your house, outside, forests, grasslands, any kind of area, you will see that they are so successful they would have colonized. Okay, worldwide, it's more than about 14,000 species, but of course, scientists estimate that there could be more than about 22,000 species. Again, many of those ants are sitting in those wilds across the world where they have not been named. So, and in India alone, there are more than 843 species. And then Bangalore has more than 110 species. And we have also found something new to the world from Bangalore. Okay. So what I'm trying to emphasize in this slide is that ants are very, very common, and they have colonized every other ecosystem, mostly terrestrial ecosystem. They are found everywhere widely, and most of the the thing why you attribute the success to the ant is all to do with teamwork. Okay, so teamwork that we rarely find in human beings or human societies. Teamwork is paramount to the success of their living, of their colonizing the world. So that's one. Secondly, I mean, when you think of ants, most of you will think of them as, I mean, all the ants that you see outside. I mean, any ant that you've seen, they're all females. So it's basically a female-dominated society. Okay, so it's all women power, or the success of the ants is all because they're largely more or less 99% of the ants that you'll see will be females. And I'll come back to that later. So the other question that comes mostly to all of us is, why are ants important? Are they very important that we should talk about them, celebrate their success, or is it that we should not care about them? But ants are very, very important. In fact, I keep telling most people that we can get rid of the tigers and everyone, but getting rid of the ants, termites, and bees, I think, will mean that the collapse of most ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystems. Ants are ultra important that way because of their role as predators, and their role as prey, and also they take up the role of all the scavenging, the decomposition, the eating and removing the dead from the terrestrial ecosystem. So they are at all the three levels in the food pyramid or the food chain. So which means to say they're an important, very, very important uh, role because they can transmit the flow of energy from various levels in the ecosystem. So they become very important. And also they excavate more soil than earthworms do, even though we're always taught that earthworms are farmers' friend. Many of the times, I think the amount of soil that is removed from the ground below upwards, I think it's much more. The lastly is also, as I said, the important link in the food web, because if you remove the ants, likewise the termites, the bees, I think there will be a food collapse. I mean, the food chain, food web, all of it will come down. They all will collapse immediately. So I think why is that? If you ask me, I mean, why is that? Because in sheer numbers, if you look at the ants in the ecosystem, even though they're largely hidden away, I mean, except when you are looking at them in the forest. I mean, you might see a few hundreds to maybe 1,000 ants sometimes, but if you took up all the ants in the ecosystems, all the bees and wasps, I think there would be weighing more than the total number of human beings on the vertebrates, the animals with the backbone or the vertebral column. They'll be outweighing them. So I think which only emphasize that the sheer numbers and the biomass or the weight in the ecosystem is quite large, that removing such a important would actually not be healthy for the ecosystem. So that's why I mean I would call the ants are very important, but there are other things as well, but this is to the ecology. Next slides, please. So as I said, the ants are social insects, which means to say, what is social insects? I mean, we always say humans are social, and we also term the word society coming from social. But whereas ants are truly social, which means to say, what is being truly social means there are few groups in the animal kingdom which are truly social, which means to say um, ants, bees, wasps, and some mole rats. I'm trying to stress the word rats as well. The naked mole rats. These are truly social beings because they the individuality goes away. Each of the individual within the colony is actually working for the betterment of the colony. At the same time, it might be impacted or it might be harmed as well, but it is being truly social because the betterment, the welfare of the colony is supreme and paramount. Okay, so um, it is. I'll also give you an example later when I show you why I said uh, the ants are social being, because they're putting their lives at risk for the betterment of the colony. So that's why they're also successful. Okay. And all the ants, as I told you previously, most of the ants that you see are females. They're dominated by women or female individual. And most of the time that we see the ants that we see outside are all worker ants. Again, the other bit for the success of the ant kingdom across the world is to do with the division of labor. So when I said division of labor, ants are divided internally in most of the nests into various castes. So it is just like being in an IT company or in any organization. We have people like accountants doing the role of an accountant. Marketing guy is going out and marketing and business, bringing sales. Likewise, in an ant colony, there is a strict, usually a strict division of labor. So, which means to say, within an ant kingdom or queendom, sorry, there would be ants that go out to fetch food, which are called foragers. So, their job is to bring food, whereas the soldiers within the queendom will be actually looking at how to defend the colony, how to bring in sometimes if it's large prey, how do you go and kill and then bring the prey. Then you will have nurses, which are minor ants, whose job is to actually bring whose job is to actually feed the young ones, the very young ones, and then also to uh, uh, nurse the ants, the young ones. I mean, in the sense, feeding the young ones could be shifting the young ones from one location within the nest to another location. So that is the role given to the youngest member of the colony. Okay. So there's these kind of, again, the most important, of course, is the queen, whose job is to actually ensure that she reproduces and lays a lot of eggs, because in the queendom, the queen is the mother, and all her daughters are the workers, the soldiers, the nurses, the foragers. So the story of the ant kingdom is all about the mother and the daughters, basically. So where are the males? So males are occasionally produced. They're sometimes seen in the nest. So their job is to fly out and mate with virgin queens of different colonies. Okay, so you meet so which means to say, if there are about 1,000 ants in a colony, so roughly you might see about 10 or 12 or 15 of them actually being males. Again, males are the sons of the queen. Okay, so they're pushed out of the nest to mate with virgin queens of the neighboring or other colonies nearby. So this is how the the queendom, or the queen under the society within a ant colony is structured. But again, if, the number of ants within each colony will vary on the species itself. For example, in the case of jumping ants, you will see about close to about 500 to 600 individuals. Whereas when you're looking at maybe a leptogenous processionalis, the procession ant that you see in some of India's forests or India's parks, you will see there'll be like maybe about a few lakh ants. Okay, so there is a lot of variation in terms of numbers. So next, so in the same slide that I'm looking, you are seeing. Sorry, going back, you will see that there's a queen there. It's a virgin queen because of a weaver ant, and you can still you will see the queen is usually largest in size. So in this case, you'll see a very fat abdomen, and also if you look at the head of the ant, you will also see certain a couple of 3 eyes, ocelli, which helps in flight. Okay, so next slide, please. So in the next slide, you will see a nursing ant, a nurse, which is trying to pick up the larvae or feeding the larvae. Okay, so there's various instars of larvae there. So the job of the nurse is to perform a very delicate task of feeding and also picking up the young ones, because if that job was assigned to a very older individual, it would lead to injuries maybe to the young one, because their mandibles will be larger. Mandibles is the mouth part which is used for chewing or picking up or biting. So mandibles, you can see that in this picture, the nurse scientist trying to maybe feed the young one. So next slide, please. So in the next one, you will see that it's a queen ant. Again, there's this question that people ask: are those flying ants that we see just before monsoon or during monsoon, or if there's a rain, you see all these flying ants that come out. So flying ants are virgin queens, and if they have a fat abdomen, they'll be usually virgin queens. If they have a normal abdomen or a slender abdomen, those ants will be males. Okay. Again, I just wanted to show you that I mean how an ant looks. Of course, you would have all seen these virgin ants flying around light bulbs just before monsoon or during monsoon. Okay. Next, please. So next is a queen which is mated and she has laid the first batch of eggs. So this is again a weaver ant. So it's on a leaf that she has laid the eggs. The next, what she will do is then wrap that a few leaves and create a nest. So those of you from Karnataka will know, I mean, these are ants. I mean, in India, it's called as the Indian weaver ant, and in Karnataka, it's called Kenjiga. It's usually found on mango trees. They make balls using leaves, and the leaves are stuck using the larval silk of the young one. So, which is a very difficult and dangerous thing for an ant to do. It's the ants are now carrying their young ones outside the nest, exposing it to the danger, and then coaxing the larvae to release the silk to stick those leaves to make it into a ball. So, when I said it's an altruistic behavior or a social, when I said these are truly social insects, what I was also alluding to the fact is even the young ones are now risking their lives to actually help the greater good and the survival of the colonies. So, which hardly you will see in any other insects, in most insects or even the human societies. We are not truly social that way. Next, please. Whenever you think about ants, I think firstly, I mean, most of us would have seen ants going in a long trail on walls. And whenever, I mean, the most interesting things during kids, when we were kids, that we do is we try to rub off the trail, and then the ants go kind of disoriented, and they again come back, then join the trail. So, which alludes to the fact about the chemical communication. So, ants actually lay trail of scent, and then they follow. So, but that's not the only way that they actually use for navigation and communication. So they are known to actually use polarized light. Ants are known to actually look at landmarks and then retrace steps. And this has been proven several times in especially in desert conditions, where they are known to look at not only look at landmarks and come back, but also look at polarized light to look at the direction. But also, I believe they are also counting the number of steps. So it is scientists believe that they have photometers kind of system to count the number of steps that they take and measure the distance. Right. So ants are known to communicate using chemicals. So some of the ants, if they spot a piece of food, then ants which are in the vicinity of the food actually release chemicals, also called as pheromones, to alert their other nestmates or sisters, saying that okay, there's this food, and this is the kind of this is the amount of food, and this is available here, and other ants in the vicinity actually rush towards the food ant because looking at the strength of the signal of the chemical. So I think there's a lot of many strategies that ants do to actually alert. When they also use pheromones to indicate if their nest is under attack or if there are presence of prey, presence of predators, to actually go and alert the soldiers so that they can come out and um, actually deal with the predator. So and there are several studies, and one of the studies also indicate the amount of pheromones sometimes or a scent trail that the ants use can actually I think 1 milligram of that can actually be strung around the earth in a way that the ants can still detect the smell. So, which means to say, it also indicates the power of detection of the smell as well as the chemicals that's being used by ants. And how do they detect chemicals? Because of the sensors that are available on their antennae. So the antennae actually act like a nose for the ant. So just to give you some flavor of the kind of nests, if you can go to the next slide, please. So nests come in different shapes and sizes on the ground. It could be just one small hole, and this is very common even in your houses. You will see of ants having made nests, maybe when two walls meets or at the edges of the doors, or in the kitchens. I mean, if there's a crevice, or also behind the electric switch, if there's a small hole, the ants would have made a nest. So ants also are known to decorate the nest entrances. So if you go to the next slide, you will see that ants can bring in twigs to decorate. And in this slide, you will also see on the top right hand corner, there's also a feather. This ant has come and deliberately laid it on around the nest. So it's a feather of an ant. Sometimes in this case, this ant is known to harvest the dew that falls on the feather. The morning dew, and the feather attracts the dew, and this ant is known to collect the water and then take it back inside the nest. But ants are also known to actually decorate with petals of flowers, twigs. Sometimes the remains of the spiders or the predators are also thrown out, which is kind of a decoration, which kind of indicates. Also, sometimes stones are brought out and then laid. So for various reasons, I mean, we call it as decorating. It of course serves many purposes. So in the next slide, you will see a fort ant, which is found commonly in Western India, especially in the Ghats. If you're in the Ghats in Sirsi, or if you're in Maharashtra region, you'll see a lot of tiny ants which build this fort-like nests. Amazing to look at, and of course, these ants are called as fort ants, named after the kind of structure of the nest that they build. Okay, so next slide, please. So again, in the next slide, you will see what I was talking about, the altruistic behavior of ants. So if you look at this weaver ants, the Indian weaver ant, what this ant has done is in the photo you will see it's brought out its young ones, which should be actually kept safely outside, and coaxing the young ones to actually release the silk, and the silk is actually used to stick the leaves to make it into a ball. So this in this process, it's a very risky thing for the young one, because the danger, it's now exposing the young one to the harsh environment, to predators. But of course, it's uh, the evolutionarily, if you look at it, I mean, it's a win-win, because it's a betterment of the colony, um, and these are terrestrial lands, and it's a way to it's a glue kind of thing to stick the nest. So in turn, it will also get protected, because once the nest is properly glued and stitched, uh, it is for the betterment of the young one as well. So next slide, you will also see a different kind of nest, again made by ants. So these are acrobat ants. Again, these are very common ants that you'll find in forests in India, of course, also in parks. From the acrobat ants, which are I'm trying to not talk about the genus names like Chromatogastro. I just want you to appreciate the kind of role, the kind of activities that various types of ants do. So these are carton nests made out of the bark of the tree. So these ants actually chew the bark of the tree, mix it with saliva, make it into a pulp, and then paste the pulp to make it into a large ball, where the ants lives. And also you will see that sometimes woodpeckers are known to reside in these carton. So when we talk about ants, in the next slide, please. Yeah. So these there's a slide before that. I think so. Yeah. So all ants are not blind or don't have eyes. Some ants are blind. So these are ants found uh, in even urban areas in India, including parks and also in the forest. So they do not have eyes. These are some of the ants called blind ants. But of course, each of the colony will have several lakh, several hundred thousands of ants. But despite not having their eyes, these ants still do hunt. They still do perform their normal lives. I mean, go about doing their normal lives just by the power of chemicals. That means their scent as well as touch. So they are known to hunt smaller creatures, like maybe the silverfish or cockroaches in the forest, just by or other prey, but just by touch and smell. So despite not having eyes, I mean, so which just talk about show a lot of sophistication in terms of their chemical scent, smelling, as well as the use of smell, use of scent. So next slide, please. So these are the acrobat ants that I told you about, which actually make carton nests. Why are they called acrobat ants? Because when they are alarmed, or when they're kind of threatened, most of these ants actually start spraying pheromones, and their abdomen actually is raised up. And if you look at them, I mean, it looks like they're doing a kind of a trapeze act. So next, please. So these are the procession ant. So why I'm sharing all these ants is, I mean, for us, if you if you ask anyone, I mean, they'll say, I mean, ants, these are the big ants, the small ants, the red ants. I mean, most of us, I mean, who have not observed ants will talk about this red ants, black ants, the small ants, and the big ants. So that's why I'm trying to show, I mean, the color, there's a lot of texture on the outer surface of the ant. And in this procession ant, I mean, usually found in parks or forests, these go in long procession. And that's why they're called as procession ant. But these are termite loving ants. So the predominant diet of these ants are termites. Okay. And they, of course, look different. They're very shiny and slightly long, bigger than the red ants that you find within your homes. Next, please. Some ants are also known to jump. So this is the Indian jumping ant that we call as Arpagnathus. They're also known to catch prey in midair. And when I was telling you that some ants can actually decorate their nest with petals, this is the ant. I mean, if you look at their eyes, they're quite big. They have a long scissor-like mandible. And just like grasshoppers, these ants can jump. Okay, quite large ants. As I said, there are about 400 to 800 individuals in each colony of this particular ant. And the other interesting thing about this ant is that it is also known to actually, just like many of the wasps and other creatures, they actually don't scavenge. They don't like dead insects to eat. So instead, what it does, it paralyzes the prey, brings it to the nest, keeps it, and whenever it needs to feed its young one, it actually chops the paralyzed prey and provide fresh meat to its young one. Next, please. Again, this is an harvester ant. This is again common in most of our parks and forests. Very easy to identify if you go to a park and if you see a nesting hole, and then if there are all these grass seeds around the hole, then it's then these are the harvester ants. Okay, and the predominant diet of these ants are grass seeds. So about close to about 90% of it is vegetarian diet. So kind of what it does, it collects all the grass seeds, brings it into its and stores it underground, and whenever it needs some of its food, it breaks open the grass seed, the outer shell, and then eats. So again, an interesting thing about this ant is that I think it's mentioned in the Bible, or one of those, also the Aesop fables, or maybe at least in the Bible, it's recorded about the storing ability of seed of ants. And I think in the early 1900s, one of the army officer, I think, discovered these ants, the ability to store. When he found these ants somewhere, it's a British officer in Western India, somewhere in Pune. That's the first time for him to get. I mean, there was a record of ants storing food. I mean, which of course was documented much earlier in some of the epics and stories. So next, please. So this is an interesting ant named after Bangalore called Dilobocondyla bangalorica. So found, of course, I and my friend who were collecting ants, working on ants, we discovered that this is from a very famous park in Bangalore called Cubbon Park. So it's a very shy ant, and it was new to science then, and it was named after Bangalore. So next please. again, I want you to appreciate the colors of the ants and the shape and size. So next, please. This is a very common ant. It's a very tramp species which found more or less everywhere. Again, this ant is called as a black crazy ant. Many of you know that in Indian homes or even in Bangalore, those of you in Bangalore, you'll see black ants actually transporting their young ones, going in long trails within the homes. So when it gets since it's magnified, you'll see that it looks quite different. But these are the black ants found in our homes. Next, please. So this is interesting. Again, these are the fire ants. The red ants found in parks it's colonized many parts of the world. Red ants, these are called fire ants. There are a couple of fire ants, the Argentinian fire ants, then the Indian fire ants. They can colonize everything, every area. And when they colonize, they actually displace all the native ants. And only when you get bitten by these ants, you'll know why they're called fire ants, because it will make you feel that your body's on fire. And what is interesting in this picture is that you are seeing those white things there, the mealybugs. And what these ants are doing is they are attending to the mealybugs. So it's a symbiotic relationship that they have with the mealybugs. So mealybugs is something like human societies. We all, in the sense, farmers have cows, they have cattle, for milk and other things. So here in this case, these ants store mealybugs in their nests, and they are known to actually transport these mealybugs on plants. The mealybugs get free transportation to a food source, and the mealybugs, when they take in the sap, they excrete a sugary substance which is rich in amino acids and also sugar. The ants take those droplets and feed it to the young ones. Now they're getting free kind of milk, so-called milk or sugary substance to feed it to the young ones. The mealybugs are getting free transportation and protection from predators. So it is a symbiotic relationship, right? So they are known to make such association with various other insects. Next, please. So ants are known for their industrious nature, hard work. They're always known as ants. Work like an ant. Ants are known to be hard workers, working all the time. But not all ants are that way. There are also ants, just like in human societies, which used to be earlier. Some ants are known to keep slaves. So what they do is they go and raid the colonies, the young ones of other ants, and then bring them and make them work. So slave making ants are also common. There are also ants which actually act like thieves. Instead of going and bringing the food, if they see other ants working, carrying food, these ants are known to actually go and kind of mug the ants carrying the food, and they will quickly bring that to their nest. So uh, just to reflect that that ants can do, just they mirror human societies. Okay, yeah. Next, please. Next is trapjaw ants. Again, ants. I'm showing ants that are common to India, found in Western Ghats, some of the biodiversity-rich areas of India. So its trapjaw ants are one of those fastest, uh, uh, second fastest moving appendages in animal kingdom. So it is the mandibles are known to close at speeds about 126 to 230 kilometers per hour, according to. There have been motion cameras that have been kept and trying to figure out the speed of these moving appendages, the moving mandibles. So needs only 130 microseconds to close the jaws. So imagine the speed. When it does that, kind of closing, it is also known that the ants are kind of recoil, just like when you shoot, the gun recoils, right? So that kind of recoil, and these ants, when they're close to catch a prey, they actually recoil. So that's the thing. So these are I've just tried to give you some interesting facts. So next time when you look at an ant, you are not a kind of saying that it's another small creature. I mean, we are in awe when we look at larger things like an elephant, a tiger, or even butterflies or birds. We always think, oh wow. But when we look usually at these small things, we like kind of trivialize. So that's why I've brought in some interesting things for you to look at. The moving on to the last but one slide. So the next slide, please. I mean, there's a lot of technologies that scientists are deriving by looking at ants, watching ants. In fact, my co-author of my ant book, who is a scientist in Australia, looks at ant vision. How do ants pursue what, and what do they pursue? How do they pursue, despite having such small eyes, uh, um, compound eyes? They are doing so much that is unimaginable for their size. And what is the technology we can derive? So I think that's there are a lot of technologies that are being derived from ants and bees, which are now put into rovers on Mars or looking in space. So there's a lot of interesting things, technologies being derived. Secondly, Bangalore notorious for traffic jams. How do ants, millions of ants, uh, go and come? Travel long distances in millions, come back without having to have traffic jams. So there's interesting things because we have now got the Googles, but by looking at Google Maps, we can always say, okay, there's a traffic jam. Can we look at another route to go back to home? But here, ants, when they're moving, when they're going back and forth on a trail, they're also communicating how good the trail is, what has happened, and they're always quick to look at different. They're quick to solve the problem of if there's a disruption in a trail. They know they will look for newer paths, newer shortcuts to actually go back and forth to the source of food, or when they're shifting us. So there's a lot of communication that are happening. So one easy thing is if you're stuck in a traffic jam, if you told the person maybe half a kilometer, if you had a mechanism to tell that person half a kilometer or 1 kilometer behind you, saying that, oh, please don't come here, there's a traffic jam, it will take some more time, why don't you look for an alternative route? Then I think it will solve a lot of trouble. So ants have that ability to communicate to other nestmates, saying that please look for a different route. Then antibiotics. This is another big thing that's happening because some of those leafcutter ants in Brazil or South America are known to culture a particular fungi, which is fed on the leaves of particular plants. So how do they maintain that sterility within the ant nest? Ants are known to secrete antibiotics to clean themselves, to clean the nest, to ensure that the nest is clean. So microbiologists are looking at antibiotics, new forms of antibiotics. Of course, formalin, we all know the name formica for an ant came from, the formalin came from the word formica, which means ants. Uh, in the olden days, they would crush these ants because the ants also are produce formic acid uh, um, from their abdomen, which is used to keep the nest sterile, and also when it's used when it uh, kills a prey, or if you've been bitten by a weaver ant, some of you will know that firstly it bites and then sprays acid, that's formic acid. So it's like putting salt over wounds. So there are many things to learn apart from, of course, teamwork. How do they divide work, how do they solve problems. There are plenty of algorithms like called as ant algorithms. the swarming theory, how do they reach to the source of food? So there's plenty of things that are being derived or learned from ants, including the problem-solving skills which is being put to use. So I'll stop here. The next slide, I think, is about it's my email ID. Since I'm taking this on my mobile phone, if any of you can read out the questions, I'll be happy to take those questions. Do let me know on the questions, and I'll happy to tell you. But I can promise this is never ending. I mean, lots of questions that people have, and happy to help share some of my thoughts or answers. And if you want to get in touch, I think my email ID is there on this last slide. Yeah. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sunil. Thank you so much. I'm sure all of us have some questions to ask. So what I suggest is I will request Vikram Hiresave to please look into the questions if there are any in the chat box, and also you can use the option raise hand option, and we will ask you to please unmute and ask. My only request is to stick to one question so that we give opportunity to the others, and we come back to you again if you have more questions. Yeah, over to you, Vikram. Yeah, take it forward.
Yeah, nothing right now. I'm trying to see if I can get a link to the book being sold online. Some people may be interested.
Yeah, on the book itself, I think I think it's run out of stock on Amazon, is what I know.
Yeah, I think there were a few that Vilas mentioned.
Yeah, BNG Births, I think there's some books. If people want to buy those books, it's on BNG Births. So Vikram, you can, I think you are
I
one
will
of
do that. I think it's
maybe.
with, yeah, it's on EchoEdu. Yeah, it should be on EchoEdu. I'm trying to reach Ullas. He seems to be in a call. I will get the link and I'll share it with those who attended it.
No problem. I think Amazon, I think it's sold out, I think so. So it's called as On a Trail with Ants. I think a couple of you, I think one of the, over to you, Vikram, for the questions in the chat so I can,
Yeah, no specific questions so far. Folks, please do raise your hand and do it. There's a very nice set of ants being shown on the screen. I'm not sure of the child's name. Sunil, if you were to look at that, I'm not sure what the child is. Hey, Arun, you could please go ahead.
Yeah, Sunil, wonderful, very informative.
And then I'll ask Prasad's question.
Session. Sunil, I was just curious to know if there are any invasive ants in Bangalore. I mean,
well, depends how you look at it. Depends how you look at it. Invasive, I think, invasive, I would say, over a period of time, we've lost many of those ants which were common, I would say. I would think it's mostly due to with, I mean, urbanization now, and now we have cleared out most of our vegetation. So many places, I mean, some of you bird watchers have seen jumping ants, and which no longer exists in some parts of course, the parks and the green spaces. So I think we are losing out a lot. But some of the invasive ants that we see, fire ants, are have already been there, and they have been there for, I can remember from my childhood, fire ants. So, and some of those red crazy ants. So I think these guys are always there. Yeah, I've been there, but I think we are seeing diversity of ants coming down. Definitely, that because change in vegetation and removal of vegetation. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. I think there are two similar questions. I will put that by Rashmi and by Prasad, which is too much concreting affecting ant populations in urban areas? And Rashmi is asked about whether the way we build is ants making their house and nests in Oh, okay, sorry, these are not related. I misunderstood the question. So I think the first question is from Prasad. Is rapid concretization, is that affecting ant populations? If you could take that, Sunil, then I will come to the few other related
Sure.
questions.
So I think that's truly that's yes. Concretization does favor a particular few species of ants. So of course, if you remove vegetation, all those arboreal ants will go away anyway. For example, you will never get those fever ants, or you will not get those tetraponeras, those ants which make nests in the bark or in the dead trees. So I think removal of vegetation and urbanization will only favor and make very fewer ants to nest. Those like the fire ants, the black crazy ants that we saw, or those monomoriums. So I think, of course, those I'm sorry, not monomorium, the fire ants. Some of those ants which have adapted to concrete conditions will be there. All those ants like your monomorium ants or your tetrapoda will anyway go away. I think definitely populations, the species will go away. Yeah.
Got it.
And definitely, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Sunil. Yeah, I think a lot to relook at the way we build in cities. Past President Ganga, if you could please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. It is a nice topic and interesting one. My question is a bit different. In parts of India, in some villages and jungles, and also other parts of the world, people do eat a particular type of ant, and they say it is delicious. Some international known celebrities in the cooking field. They also visited. I saw the videos. They collect the ants and they do a type of sauce. What is the basic behind that? Is it advisable? And basically, I want to know what is the basic of eating this sauce made out of ants. If we can just throw some light. It's nice for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically, in India, I mean, recently, I think 1 month back, or I think in the weaver ants have been GI tagged. That's mean geographically indicator. So why ants in India, many parts of India, ants are made into a chutney or a paste kind of thing and eaten because of the formic acid, the kind of tangy taste it has. And ants, or I mean, like almost all insects, they're all protein rich as well. So you see ants being used also as a delicacy or a condiment. So it's very common in parts of India like Orissa because of its one is protein and also the tanginess. So when you make it into paste and you mix other things, spices, it makes a delicacy. So it's common. So these are the only two reasons. So, and not that all the ants would be that way. It is usually the most evolved ants called as under the subfamily Formicinae that people do eat ants. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend that you eat all the ants except particular types of ants only.
Good to
Sorry,
know that.
To continue, it also helps in vision. Is it true or false? Thank you.
I don't know, but I've heard it a lot because even my grandmother would tell that, but I really don't know.
Yeah, so
I don't know the answer.
Getting folic acid from tablets might be the easier way and less stressful on ants. So, okay, while we take Ayman, just give me a second before Ayman's. Mindula has been very patiently holding that ant to know what it is. Sunil, if you could take a look on the screen and tell us what ant he's holding up.
I lost you. Yeah. So what is that? I can't. Can you take? Oh, that's a nice nest that you have. Interesting. If you can photograph an ant and send me, I'll be able to do. it looks like a Camponotus, but I don't know. I'll have to look
Thanks,
at it.
Mindala. You
Yes.
can send
So,
it. Yeah, we'll check with Sunil
yeah,
and probably come back to you on
it's
this.
yeah. It
Yeah.
looks like that's nice. Thank you.
Great. So Ayman, why don't you go ahead? Then I'll ask one more from the chat. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, sir. Good evening. Firstly, wonderful talk. Lots of wonderful information. So from what I gather, especially considering the large amount of species there are, lots of ants fall under the same category in the food chain, right? So scavengers or so scavengers at the end of the food chain. How do they interact amongst each other, and is there some kind of competition between them? Do they develop niches, or how do they survive? I just wanted your opinion on that.
So ants are known to eat other ants. Ants play the role of scavenger. Ants play the role of as a prey because they get eaten by maybe spiders, maybe for example, or lizards might eat ants. So ants play various roles at different levels. Okay, within the food pyramid. That's one. Ants also compete for food. They within the same ecosystem there could be sometimes time based. Some ants are nocturnal, so they might hunt or eat certain things during the night. There could be other ants using, for example, if it comes to a tree, there are ants, for example, some are nocturnal. They go up the tree to collect particular, for example, dew or honeydew or nectaries during particular times of the day. So there is also the sharing division of kind of resources, but as you said, they can also compete with each other. So there's no one strategy. Okay, there's no one kind of.
Got it. Thanks for that, Sunil Ayman. One question from Harsha. How long did you observe? How long did you have to observe to find your first male flying ant?
Of course, I mean, for me, it's about 25 years back. So I was first is looking at the book to understand. For me to identify with the first female ant, it took me 8 hours. Okay, because a lot of keys, lot of you have to go by the book, right? There is a particular method of identifying. So it took me 8 hours. Successively, it took me lesser. And once you started reading those books, all this taxonomy, these books are where you understand how to identify. There's particular steps to identify, right? Taxonomic keys. Then when you're reading the literature, you understand then, okay, male ants look this way. And when you're in the field, when you see some ants being pushed out of the nest, that's when you realize, oh, the female ants look like this, the male ants look like this. So it took me a few. I wouldn't say hours, but it's a long process by itself. I mean, you need to do a lot of observations in the field, but once you get the knack of
Yeah, Sunil, we just lost you.
there's a difference in the head as well. So once you get the knack, then you will start easily identifying. So the answer is not like a short answer.
Got it. Thanks for that, Sunil. So the next one is again interesting. So from Rashmi on, when we often hear this, I think this is something that I also would want to ask. When ants make houses and nests in homes and buildings, do they affect the structure of the building? I know it attracts a lot of lizards, but does it affect the structure in any way if it is a very large nest, maybe?
So most of the ants that make nest will be your parrot trichina, the black crazy ant, a couple of camponotus, and then also these odor ants that you see in your kitchen. So I don't think so they will affect the structure, which will make the building fall. I don't think so. That will, of course, it's unless your house is fully infested with ants, I don't think so. I would call it any danger to the structure. So
I think, yeah, if the house is fully infested, I think structure will be the last problem.
correct.
One
I know.
last thing from Jatin. Termites are not ants, so why do we call termite hills as ant hills? It's a good question.
So is this called? I think it's a misnomer. It's called as white ants. People call it as white ant.
White ants, okay, that's
why?
why.
Yeah. That's why ant hills. Yeah.
One from Geetanjali, very interesting question. What triggered your interest to start studying ants of all creatures?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say that I was inspired. I got interested when I was a kid, all that, because I wouldn't. That is not the reason. The real reason is I was as ignorant as many people of us. But then during my MSc days, I wanted to do something else. But then, since I had a kind of a tiff with my professor, he said, "You go and watch ants." So I think, out of frustration and kind of pushing me, I said, I was assigned to a particular professor in IIC. So with kind of great difficulty, I said I will go and do this. But that turned out to be very fascinating. So, and then I slowly fell in love with ants. So I think it's nothing to do with any kind of inspirational story I heard or watched, or so it was pure kind of pushed me to watch ants. So
Yeah, but your
but
talk
of
could
course,
inspire Mendula here. You
yeah,
don't know.
no, yes, no. If someone had provided this talk, maybe I would have actually taken up this subject, but of course I was pushed into it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So I don't see any other questions or raised hands. Over to you, Sanjay.
So I think it's almost more than 1 hour. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sunil. Really loved the
Thing from Subodh.
talk.
Subodh says when buildings were built.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Mindula.
You send your WhatsApp number to.
I've sent
Okay.
it on
Surely
chat. I've sent it to you already. I'll send it again.
Sure.
And how do we reply to you? I need your WhatsApp number also. Okay. Anyway, I think Vikram, I think you share your WhatsApp number.
I have already done that. I've sent it once again, Mindula. Just take a look. I've sent you a message.
Oh, okay.
That's my number. Yeah, I've sent you a second time. Yeah, I've been sending the direct messages.
Okay. And we can reply.
Sorry, I got a call. I was just.
I had one question, I had reserved it. I have actually two questions, in fact. One is about the Kenchaga, that is the red ants. You said they usually nest on the mango tree. And now people find it very difficult to pluck mangoes, and invariably they remove these nests. And then is there some way, is there any suggestion to farmers, if I can impress on them and say that please don't remove it, it is useful, something like that, what can I tell them? What do you think I can
see, if you look at the oldest way of I would say biopesticide kind of thing, it is well known in parts of the world. Of course, the earliest record must be some 340 AD or something, I think, in China, where I think they would put this weaver ants nest. They would bring the nests, And even in parts of Kerala, there is this records of putting the weaver ants nest on to the trees to prevent insects from taking over. It's like so because some of these ants are known to be especially weaver ants. Likewise, there are several such ants that they are known to kill the insects on the tree, other insects, the pests. Okay, so I don't want to here debate on what is a pest, what is a useful, because here I'm just talking, I'm batting for ants, right? Okay, but it is known that it reduces the infestation of other insects on trees, because these ants take over the entire tree. Kind of, they have a kind of a territorial dominance on the tree. Okay, so
Right.
it's like animals. Sometimes you say animals have a territory. These weaver ants also have territory. So I think it reduces the infestation of other pests. So that way, I think it's very useful.
Okay. We have seen some arachnids, spiders mimicking ants. Are there any ants mimicking other species? Like I think we have something that that mimics or imitates a scorpion. Some, are there any ants that mimic other species? Have you come across?
No, I have not come across, because I have looked from the lens of an ant, right? In the sense, so I have not seen anything like that. But that's an interesting question to watch out. Do they mimic other? But in this case, because they are so dominant and there's so many numbers, so I'm not sure if they would see that kind of value in mimicking others. I don't know, but that's an interesting question to take.
Okay, we have a question from our friend from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. Sorry,
Yeah.
do we find safari and what we have in Kenya in India? So, do we have?
I don't know what we call the safari ants, because these common names, there's so many. So I really don't know what is safari. Is he talking about? Are you talking about the army ants, which go in millions and they kind of nomadic ants? Is it the same ants? Because in Africa we see a lot of army ants. In India we don't have those army ants. We have the lesser army ants that we call like the blind ants that I showed you one photo of the blind ants, which are again nomadic, like the army ants in Africa. So they actually clear vegetation from area. I'm sorry, insects in one patch of.
Kalpa, would you like to elaborate on that? You have any idea what exactly?
Yeah, it's called the Dorylus, basically the safari ants. So yeah.
Dorylus. Dorylus, we have Dorylus. Yes, these are we call the lesser army ants in India.
Oh,
yeah, Dorylus are common. Yeah.
So the common name is lesser army ants, is it?
Yeah, in India we call them that. So Dorylus, yeah, Dorylus is common, fairly common. Again, Dorylus is again blind ants. Yeah.
This one, yeah, Cosma, you can go ahead. I think we'll take the last question from Cosma and then we'll wind up the session. Cosma, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I have two questions. The first one is when we see ants at home carrying something white and moving about in large numbers, a big colony of them, what is that white stuff they carry?
They're carrying the young ones and the eggs.
Because
so usually when you see that happening, it means to say there's for example, they have now found the present nest unsuitable for various reasons. Maybe it is for either the nest is maybe flooded, or it's become wet dampness, or the nest has become smaller because the population has grown inside the colony, that they have to relocate to another larger nest. So that's the predominantly the answer. Yeah.
So in our family, we have a belief, or among our people that in Goa that when we see things like this, it means the money is coming into the house. And believe you me, each time it happens, I will receive some money.
Wow, I never knew about it. I've watched it many times, but I've not got it. But of
It's
course,
supposed
if
to
you're
be good
getting it,
luck.
I think, yeah. I think the black ants carrying usually even when we were young, they would say. I mean, the elders would say that, oh, if the black ant has gone on your arm or on your body, I think you'll get a new pair of clothes or whatever. So
And then, so my last question is,
there's a belief, yeah. I know.
okay,
But if it's working for you, I think
till
it
date
should
it
be.
has. And the
Yeah.
last question is, second question, last one is, why do people find it so easy to kill an ant? Just squash the life out of it if it's in the way and not even look at it. But why do we think 10 times for a bigger animal when they are the most hardworking?
Well, that is to do with all the charismatic, right? I mean, the large, bigger, we are enamored by it. And small ant, yeah, I know. I mean, when you see a tiger being killed or an elephant being killed or even a butterfly killed, oh my God, it's pretty one. It's tight. I mean, because there's lack of awareness and sensitivity about ants because they're small, they're plenty in numbers, lack of understanding, and also our kind of, I think it's the human nature, I would also say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, but you, if you have any answer, better answer, please let me know. I mean, I'll also be curious. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Sunil. I think, Mr. Sunil, you should also tell us how those ants will come in, how to attract those ants that brings us money. So
I know, but I will refer that to Cosma D'Souza. I think she's getting all the money. So
yeah. Excellent session. This is something new that all of us learned, and the idea to bring speakers like you is to tell our audience that including me, that these smaller things which are hardly visible to our eyes are very important for us to survive. It's equally important for us to survive, and thanks for that. You told us how important the ants are. In fact, to an extent that they may be more important than a tiger is. To that extent, I mean.
well, I've told this many times, but I don't want to tell always because I'll get bounced upon by
I know.
people loving tigers and elephants. So
no. We do love tigers, but we have to love other animals as well. So other beings as well. That's very important for us to and that's what we are trying to do through this forum. Thank you so much, Sunil, and thank you, Arun, for bringing Sunil here, and allowing our audience to know so much about ants. I am sure we will request Mr. Sunil soon to take us on an ant safari. So we would ask you to,
I'll let you know.
few of us
We
will
do
join.
that all the time.
We can go to our Kaban Park itself to see the ant that is named after Bangalore. So thank you so much.
Surely.
Thanks.
I'll be happy to do that. And of course, I will thank you. I mean, thank you for inviting me, Sanjay, Vikram, Arun. I think many of my other friends from the bird watching community, I think they're there. So thank you all, and it's been a pleasure to be on this series. Thank you all for all the questions and making it interesting and engaging. So thank you.
Thank you. With your permission,
thank you for joining that trail.
Yeah, and can you also may I know if I can share the slides that you had shared with
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Good night.
Thank you.